This is William K. Murtaugh, Art Witness 1. Today we're going to talk about hype. Now, Northwest Liberty News claims to have the truth about what happened to Cynthia Ebzug. There's a slight problem, however. The commentator of the radio show made it perfectly clear that he is biased against the CPS, that he believes the woman's side of the story and the side of the story of his guest. He made it clear that he totally dismisses the QAnon portion of the story. And he is basically calling the person that reported the concerns to the police a liar. And he also chastised all the news media for repeating the story about what happened the day the woman was arrested. Now, it is clear that Northwest Liberty News does not know how the news media works. For if they had bothered to check thoroughly the various stories that were reported in the news media that they cited, they would understand that it was a shared story. It's all the same. Everything is the same, almost verbatim. Now, some, like the TV reporter, interjected their own points of view, but for the most part, it's exactly the same. Now, why is that? Well, in ancient times, which is around, I'm 69 years old, so I have a little experience in this area, but we used to have something called United Press International, and there is also still the Associated Press. Now, I'm not certain if the commentator for Northwest Liberty News understands what these two organizations are, so I'm going to fill him in. All right, Denver, Colorado comes across a story about a woman that gets arrested because there's allegedly an arrest warrant out for her. The Denver outlet makes a report. They submit it to either United Press International or the Associated Press. This story gets spread through all the member media outlets. And the story then gets repeated like the LA Times, BuzzFeed, various TV outlets, maybe Miami Herald will pick the story up. All these news outlets pick up the exact same story. That's number one. So there's no bias in the part of the media. They're just relaying a report by one source. Now let's go back to the original source. The original reporting of this particular incident was done by a newspaper. And the newspaper cited as its source the police report and the affidavit in the police report. If you look at all the stories on every single solitary outlet that was cited by the host, there's two words that stand out. Police said. That's very important because they are going by what a police officer said in a sworn affidavit, another important word, that the incident happened as it did. So the newspaper outlet did not make this stuff up out of thin air. They did not lie. It is not them that owe any apology. All they were doing is exactly what the Liberty News guy is doing. They are relaying what is told to them. Now, Northwest Liberty News was not at Phil McConnell's house. He was not in Arkansas. He was not here. He was not there. He was sitting in his comfy little studio in Oklahoma. Or Montana, correction. So, unless he's on the phone talking to Phil McConnell and all these other people, he doesn't have first-hand knowledge, so he doesn't know any more than the newspaper that reported the incident. He's taking the word of his guest. or Cynthia if she ever decides to report, or all this quote-unquote secret information he has. But since he's the one that bailed this woman out, allegedly, he has a bias. And you have to take that into account. There's no truth here. This is an opinion based on what he's been told. Where the truth will come out is in court. When people start slapping their hands down on that Bible and swearing to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help them God, then maybe we'll find out all sides of the story. We'll hear the reports from the CPS representative and people responsible for ordering these child be taken from the mother. There were more than one. These children, I should say. And given temporary custody to the state. And anybody that's followed this case from the beginning understand what the charges are here. The mother didn't even bother to show up to the hearing. She just said screw it and left. You know, if the mother is so correct in her position, why did she run away? Why did these people run away? This is Tim Homestead did the same thing. He ran away. Rather than face up and say, this is my case, I'm defending myself here. You're not going to railroad me. He ran away. Like the little coward he is. And this woman did the exact same thing. She said, screw it, I'm leaving. Never even defended herself. And so what happened, she runs all over the United States on this little vacation. You know, calls up all these radio shows and say, poor pitiful me. And then she gets arrested and then complains about it on another radio show. When she could have gotten this situation all taken care of in the beginning. And what this radio host doesn't seem to understand is that she's made it matters worse. But let's get back to the central point here. Now we got this biased commentator getting on there, you know, and having this guy on. And what's the first thing this guy does? He admits that they went to a QAnon meeting. Now, before all this, the commentator went into this rant and rave about QAnon and blah, 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 and how QAnon is not what people say it is. It's just a movement or whatever, you know, whatever he said. The fact of the matter is QAnon came up. And we're just at the beginning of this. So, he says in the teaser, they had this meeting with 8 people, nothing to it, end of story. Might as well not even have the 3-part series. He drew his connection in the teaser. His conclusion in the teaser. Said they had a meeting with 8 people, got a bracelet, end of story. Had a nice meal. I think he's got tacos at a country club or some nonsense. End of story. Don't even do the 3 parts. We already got the story completed. It's a big fraud. Newspapers got to print based on this teaser. Newspapers have got to print an apology the next day. Apologize. You got it wrong. In a 10-minute teaser on my show, the guy says you guys got it wrong. They had this meeting in Colorado. That's all there was to it. Didn't get into the rest of it. Until today. Now, things are starting to come out. And that is what is going to be determined here. Is all these little facts. The fact that this guy aided and abetted a fugitive from justice. He knew that woman was wanted by the law, that there are charges that have been pressed against her, that she bugged out on a hearing, and he knew he was breaking the law. That's why he was so discreet about it. And I think what you're going to find as the details come out, even in this guy's version of the story, that the warrant was justified. That this woman ran away. Doesn't matter what, they can come up with all kinds of excuses. The fact of the matter is the woman ran away. And what did it accomplish? She got arrested anyway. And she's going to have to go to jail. Now she's out on bond, which is something that Phil McConnell should have thought about. You know, instead of listening to these crackpots that he listens to, if he had listened to a real lawyer, he might be at home in his living room doing his police reports instead of from a jail cell. That's kind of neat. And another really bright thing this guy did. Now they decide, yeah, we're going to protect the identity of the child in the middle of all this, the male child, the one that was alleged to be in the middle of this kidnap plot. We'll protect his identity. But the 15-year-old girl that ratted out her mother, we'll not protect her. We'll put her name out there on the internet for all the crackpots to make fun of her and criticize her for everything. Her name was not in the police report. They redacted it. So why did this idiot put her name on the air, over the internet? Why did the host allow it? This is not a live interview. This is recorded. Remember the teaser? He said there's going to be a 3-part. I recorded this. He could have gone through and redacted the child's name out of the report. He didn't bother to do that. Why? It's a careless and stupid thing to do. All the daughter was doing was acting out of concern for her brother and her mother. And this guy blurted out the child's name. The host irresponsibly allowed this to be put out on the air. That's why, that can get you sued in some cases, and it may be against the law in others. It was a very careless thing to do, but he did it. Cat's out of the bag. Girl's name is now all over the internet. Smooth move, Axlask. And let's get down to this rant about QAnon. Now, where did this woman get the idea about QAnon? It certainly was a lot more than just a meeting with 8 guys in a country club. There's more to the story here, and that story goes to Plum City, Wisconsin, in the house on the hill, and a man by the name of Phil McConnell. Now, I'm pretty sure that this young man that escorted this woman all over the country would remind the commentator that on the wall of Phil McConnell's studio/house are QAnon posters. Phil McConnell has made it clear that he believes in this QAnon. And who else believes in QAnon? Timothy Charles Holmseth, the guy with the big Q in the back window of his old car that he no longer has, because somehow he came into possession of a $12,000 car. Cash. Kind of an amazing thing for a guy that's an unemployed pizza delivery driver. It's a good money in being unemployed, I'll say that. But Tim Holmseth is all into this Q. This stuff is plastered all over Tim Holmseth's social media sites. Phil McConnell talks about Q all the time, or did. And there's Tim Holmseth, right in the middle of it. And then we get into the satanic rituals and sex trafficking. Where have we heard this before? Phil McConnell, Timothy Holmseth, Randy Erickson, Preacher Dan. Speaking of Preacher Dan, what is he always talking about? QAnon. Everybody in this little group talks about QAnon. So, Where's the research here, Mr. Radio Commentator? There's your answer. There's what came out in the report. It's Field McConnell and Tim Homseth is where Cindy Absa got her information from about satanic rituals, QAnon, and all this. It wasn't 5 guys or 8 guys in a country club. It was these people. This is probably one of the sloppiest talk shows I have ever heard. And I've heard Rush Limbaugh, I've heard Hannity, I've heard all the conservatives. I disagree with these people, but at least they do their job somewhat correctly. They come up with some basis for what they're talking about, and they make their biases clear. This guy didn't do that. This guy's running around saying, oh, this is all true. This girl was railroaded, blah, blah, blah. Ain't even gone to trial yet. The woman did the sensible thing. She got a lawyer. She didn't call Kirk Pendergrass or Cliff Shallot to come up and help her, or any of these other morons. She got a lawyer, and she's out on bail. But this guy, right off the bat, he discredited himself. Because he said there's no the minute he said there's no basis for the QAnon being in the police report, he blew it. Because there's hundreds of us that are following this case. On both sides of the issue. Those who like Field McConnell, those who hate Field McConnell, those who like Timothy Homseth, those who hate Timothy Homseth, so on, all the way down through the list. And the one thing both these sides know is that QAnon is smack dab in the middle of all of this. Because it's right on their social media pages. Just today, before I left my house, I checked one Facebook page in particular. And there's QAnon theories right there. This woman, which I'll talk about in a little bit, even put up a flight plan for an aircraft and seemed to imply that it was part of this QAnon business, that it was part of this other thing that's going on. It directly ties into Field McConnell and all the rest of this bunch. That part is where this commentator failed. He didn't do his job. He could have talked to people that knew Field McConnell. He could have looked at the blogs and the social media pages that have discussed Field McConnell, both supporters and detractors, and found out just exactly how QAnon figures into all this, and he didn't do that. He totally dismissed the QAnon connection. He didn't understand how this woman could possibly think that it was QAnon believers that she turned to, when it's right there, in their own worlds. Field McConnell's own words. Chris Hallett's own words. Kirk Pendergrass's own words. The rest of them. And at the top of this little hill is Timothy Charles Homseth. Now, like I said, I haven't listened to part 1, 2, or 3 yet. And I'm going to be listening. And I'm going to reserve judgment to see just exactly how this host tackles this. But if I have to go by what I heard in the teaser, I am not optimistic that he's going to give an honest impression of what happened. And then the final story is going to be when this woman goes to court and the details come out in court as to what happened. When people go to court and start testifying under oath instead of on some social media talk show about what happened, then perhaps a proper judgment can be made as to the guilt or innocence of this woman and any culpability on the part of CPS. And if people start talking about kangaroo courts and all this other nonsense and barges on dry land, then they discredited themselves. Because it's all hooey. It's a bunch of crap. It's what got people in the situations they're in the first place. Phil McConnell's in jail because of crap like this barge and dry dock and admiralty courts and all this other stuff. He listened to a bunch of idiots, and he got involved in the same lunacy, and now he's sitting in jail. Phil McConnell has no one to blame but himself for his bad judgment. And so we're going to find out in a couple days the take of this particular talk show host, and then starting February 11th, we're going to find out what's going to happen to Ms. Abzug and probably some other people. Now I'm going to make a clarification here in case people take out of context what I stated on Twitter last night, because it's already been misreported. I was notified of it. I wrote a brief thing that said that Phil McConnell was accused of harboring a fugitive. I did not say charged. Now again, we turn to this little teaser. The guy in there said that he was at Phil McConnell's and he had to bug out. Now that meant that a fugitive from justice and her accomplice were in Phil McConnell's house. They probably got fed and whatever else happened while they were there, and then they had to bug out. I wonder why they had to bug out. Maybe tonight's episode will make that clear. But there is this. If Phil McConnell knowingly helped them in any way, gave them food, gave them money, let them stay in the house for a few days, overnight even for a few hours, that is harboring a fugitive from justice. It is aiding a fugitive from justice. It's against the law. And that guy accused Phil McConnell of doing that last night. That is where the accused came from. Now, this is a closed investigation. Law enforcement is not talking about it. You can't get any information about it. The judge has sealed evidence in the case. This is highly unusual. So something is going on. And it has to do with Phil McConnell and all these other people, including this young man that was on the radio last night, or on the internet last night, I should say, in confessing to a crime. Because that's exactly what he's doing. He's implicating himself in a felony. And the charges, as this stuff comes out on this little interview, he's probably going to wind up with multiple charges. And law enforcement watches that show. I know for a fact they do. And they're going to be writing down, oh, this guy just said this? So this radio host is doing a disservice to Ms. Abzug because he is compiling evidence for the prosecution to use against her. Because this is going to come out in court. And he may find himself having to go to court. So he might want to get a lawyer. Because he's presenting evidence of a cover-up of aiding and abetting a fugitive from justice on the air in a 3-part radio series and a teaser. Yeah, real swift move on this guy's part. But it makes for listening, it's a good way to get information. Yeah, if I was a woman's lawyer, I would be calling up that radio commentator and screaming bloody murder. Saying, what the hell are you doing? Trying to put my client in jail? Sitting there giving out all these details on a public radio that the cops are probably listening to? Thanks a lot. Because that's what's going on here. He's basically making matters worse for this woman by giving out all these details. But it's his show. He wants the clickbait. He's getting the clickbait. And this brings me up to something to note about this little show and this little teaser. He put the thing out there as a teaser that he's going to have an interview and all this stuff starting tonight. Part 1. All it was a teaser. This is a 55-minute show. a good portion of the show was this lengthy introduction that he does with speeches by Trump, speeches by Reagan, all the stuff that happens. Gets into a summary of things that have nothing to do about what he's talking about. Gets into a little tirade about this, that, and the other thing. Then we have an all too brief segment to let people know what's going to happen, which is this thing where the guy went to the country club, met 8 guys, and he said, okay, everybody's, now you know the truth. I want apologies from the newspapers, blah, 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 all based on an expose multi-part series that ain't even started yet. All we had was a teaser, and automatically the newspapers got to issue their apology. And I've already gone over why that is a dumb argument. And so, we'll wait and see. But I'll tell you, Saturday, there'll be a murder-thon about this. There might be one Friday. I don't know yet, because I may be preparing for this. I'm trying to improve the way I do my thing. But I'm not going to sit there and declare that I've got the truth about everything. I've got what is my take on what I learned from different sources. But it's only my opinion. I'm not going to declare that it's the absolute truth. That's going to be determined in a court of law. And so I would suggest that everybody take into consideration the fact that this guy's biased. I mean, believe what you want to believe. I don't care what side of the story you're on. But let's wait until this hits court. And all the exhibits come in, the discovery, statements by people. And then decide if what this woman did was the right thing or whether she deserved to have her child taken away, which is going to happen anyway. And so much for that particular subject. Now we're going to get to the Blizzard Witch. Now this woman posted what has to be one of the dumbest things that I've seen her post on her Facebook page. And she posts a lot of dumb things. I mean, this woman is a wingnut swingnut. I mean, she posts on Facebook absolute and sheer nonsense. And people just soak this crap in like a sponge, but what the hell. And she made it clear when she posted this that it was to me. My name is mentioned in here. Mert. And what does she put up? She puts up a FlightAware report. Anybody that is interested in airplanes know what FlightAware is. I've used it before to demonstrate when I'm going to various places. If I'm on an aircraft that has Wi-Fi, I can put up there, here's FlightAware. This is where I'm at right now. I'm over the state of Kentucky, going to land in 20 minutes, blah, blah, blah. So she puts this up, and the plane's going from Fort Lauderdale to Gitmo, or as it's known as the Guantanamo Bay Naval Station. She makes some implication about Guantanamo Naval Station, that there's some quote-unquote reason for this aircraft to have landed in Gitmo, as it's known, 12 hours prior to her putting this on Facebook. And as I stated, this is the Guantanamo Bay Naval Air Station. Now, the Guantanamo Bay Naval Air Station has become to be known as the place where all the 9/11 terrorists and ISIS people and all these bad guys are flown into and kept until they go on trial for their terrorism activities. And that's not the entire mission of Guantanamo Bay. But these conspiracy theories make a big deal about it. Guantanamo Bay's come up a lot. So anyway, we got this airplane that flew from Fort Lauderdale to Gitmo. Now, I'm kind of curious how this particular company got on this woman's radar. And it kind of had me concerned for a minute, because when she told me about this, I figured maybe this woman had found out something that I didn't want people to know about. It turned out I had nothing to worry about. This woman was just being a wingnut. I want to fill you in on a little secret that apparently this woman doesn't know. National Airways is a charter company. It means they rent airplanes along with a crew. One of their big customers is the United States government, specifically the Department of the United States Navy, Department of the Navy, under the Department of Defense. They have other contracts with the government, but this is one we're going to concentrate on. Now, National Airways flies non-classified missions for the United States government. Very important distinction here. This is a civilian airline. They do not have the kind of clearance to be going around transporting, say, President Trump or any of these other people, or high profile anything. It's a civilian contractor. They have minimal security clearance, just enough to where they can land at this Navy base. These are routine flights. Now, if you want to find out about national airlines in Fort Lauderdale, you can get on Google and Google these people. You're going to find something out. Number one, they are exactly what they said they are. It's a charter company. You can go down there, if you got $10,000, $15,000, you can go down, charter a 747 and fly wherever you want to go. As long as they're legally able to fly to that location, you can go there. They have big jets, little jets, all kinds of airplanes. Big company. And this is routine. They go down to Gitmo, and they transport military personnel all the time. You get guys that finish their tour, they hop on the plane to go home. You get guys that are on 30-day leave, they go home. You get guys, or girls, because there are women in the military now, but you get military personnel that get transferred to another base, and they go. They get deployed somewhere, Nationals there will take you where you need to go. That's all they do. It's an airborne bus company. It's like, it's an airborne version of a Greyhound. Get you on board, take you where you need to go. And we'll give you coffee and peanuts while you're on the way over there. That's what National is. And I'll tell you something else. Yes, National is headquartered in Fort Lauderdale. It's what's known as their FBO, Forward Base of Operation. They work on their airplanes there. Their corporate offices are there. They book their flights from there. So it's not unusual for an aircraft to leave Fort Lauderdale empty. The flights to Fort Lauderdale, to Gitmo from Fort Lauderdale are what's known as a deadhead. Anybody that has been in either the trucking business or the aircraft business knows what it means to deadhead somewhere. It means you're going somewhere and you're not generating revenue. You're flying empty. All that's on the aircraft are the crew. Every once in a great while, there may be somebody on board the aircraft that needs a ride. Soldier on leave, maybe an officer going down there on military business, catch a ride. But the simple fact of the matter is 99.9% of the flights out of Fort Lauderdale by National are deadheads. They go down routinely to Gitmo generally twice a day. They sit around down there. Military decides where they're going to go. They load the airplane and away they go. If something comes into Gitmo, it comes from another city. And it normally comes in through something known as the Military Airlift Command, which is kind of like the military version of a Greyhound. They handle all kinds of things. And it's the Military Airlift Command that would bring in anybody that is considered high profile, whether it be civilian, military, prisoner, whatever. Goes through the Military Airlift Command. And there you have it, folks. Now, this bimbo, for whatever reason, made a big deal about this. Said, oh, got a plane that went to Gitmo from Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to check on the flight manifest. See who is on board. Now, how the hell is she going to do that? Flight manifest, for your information, on both civilian and military. Remember, this is a military base we're going to here. Are classified. They're private. That's private information. You don't have access to that. You can't call up American Airlines and say, is William K. Murtaugh on flight to Denver, Colorado, and so on and so forth? They won't give you that information. You know, people found that out the hard way. There's people every day that try and find out where I go on an airplane, and they can't because it's against the law. I could give you the flight number and the aircraft plane and everything, and you could call the airline, and they'll say, can't give you that information. That's private. It's against the law. So I don't know what power this woman thinks she has that she's going to call up somebody and get the flight manifest for that aircraft. Ain't going to happen. And they're not going to tell her who's on the airplane. This is nuts. But this, you know, these people don't think straight. Now remember, these are the people that think a dead guy is going to be vice president of the United States. That Mike Pence is going to get kicked out. And that JFK Jr. is going to be vice president of the United States. He's going to run with Trump. Now, I find this incredibly funny for this reason. JFK Jr. was a liberal. He was about as left-wing as you can get. I followed this politics. I followed the politics of the entire Kennedy family, and they're all liberals, every goddamn one of them. So I don't know why. Boy, we're just having fun with sirens today. I got a fire truck going across my path. I had to interrupt the broadcast a few minutes ago because Orange County Sheriff is running around. But getting back on topic. So why? What is the reason why a liberal on the far left, even if he got reincarnated, which is really weird, or somehow he survived an airplane that practically disintegrated when it hit the water, and they recovered the bodies of everybody on board, you know, little detail that QAnon leaves out. But anyway, we get this extremely liberal Kennedy Democrat is going to run against an extremely conservative, right of conservative president. Explain that. Nobody has explained the logic behind this. Why? This is exactly what President Trump is fighting against, is this extreme left-wing philosophy. And yet you got one of them that got reincarnated or hid himself away as being his vice presidential candidate. Then Mike Pence might as well pack up and leave because he ain't going to have a job. You know, and everybody's mad at Mike Pence because they tried to kill the president. Or tried to kill Tim Homestead. He's trying to take over the presidency. He's trying to kick Donald Trump out of office and take over. And Timothy Homestead found out about it, so they want to kill him. He went to Minnesota specifically to kill him, and the Navy SEALs prevented it. That's the story. This is the kind of crap that's out there, folks. This is what the kind of people that this guy's talking about on his radio show. People that believe that JFK Jr. is alive, well, and going to be a vice president of the United States. That Vice President Pence flew to Minnesota for the express purpose of having Timothy Charles Holmseth, an unemployed pizza delivery driver, killed. Because he's a member of Q, and he supposedly has all this inside information on this international child trafficking stuff. Stupid bunch of people, I swear. But you can't argue with stupid. I mean, you sit there and you try and talk common sense into these people, and they call you names, call you old man, say you're a kook, stupidest person you ever heard on YouTube. This from a woman that believes in a Democrat running with a Republican president, and believes all kinds of weird shit. Something else, man. But hey, these people can believe in who they want. But what gets on my radar is, number one, when people start calling me a pedophile and accusing me of this crap, and they turn around and they smear the reputation of a perfectly innocent woman. Woman with 3 children. Mother of 3 children. And these people are trashing her without checking the facts. Taking the word of an unemployed pizza delivery driver who's supposed to have all this secret information that he's held on to for 10 years. Then we have the Pentagon Pedophile Task Force. That's like, God, that's rich. You know, we talk about all this Pentagon Pedophile Task Force, supposed to be this super secret government agency run through the Pentagon, and yet they rely on an unemployed pizza delivery driver to be their press secretary. What kind of bullcrap is that? This guy goes around declaring that he's third in line to the President of the United States because there's some intermediary there that's getting all this information. Turns out to be some Q idiot. And they make a hero out of him, and he hasn't a thing to show for it. Except a bunch of articles on social media. The stupidity, the sheer nonsense that people believe is just unfathomable. It's disappointing, really. Now, you've got 30-40% of the population of this country and a similar percentage throughout the world that believe this nonsense. That make this a driving force in whatever decisions they make in their lives is whatever these people are talking about on these websites. And, you know, there's no telling what's going to happen because of all this, because there's just too damn many people involved in this nonsense. You know, in a way, it makes me want to shut down and go back to playing Farmville or something, because it's more constructive than trying to talk common sense with these morons. Go around putting out flight plans and saying that there's some super-duper secret thingamajiggy going on with National Airways, when all they are is a charter company. Good grief. Are people that stupid? And the answer is yes, they are. They're that stupid. And the people that believe this nonsense are equally stupid. I don't care who you are. If you believe any of this crap, you're an idiot. Because it's absolute nonsense. This deep state crap. None of that's true. You can't keep something like that secret. I mean, it's getting to the point where all everybody wants one party rule. It's our way, no other way. You might as well do away with elections. Why have elections? Just appoint a Republican here, Republican here, Republican here, Republican here. The hell with it. Just throw the Constitution out the window. We don't need it. That's what, it's Trump or nothing. Republicans are nothing. Conservatives are nothing. The hell with the rest of the country. It's unbelievable. I mean, I can understand that you have a point of view and you'd like to see some of the things put in the place that you want. But there's 300 and some odd million people in this country. And some of us have our own point of view. So there's a little thing called compromise. You say, all right, I'll give you some of what you want. You give me some of what I want. And everybody will be happy. But that's not what's going on here. It's either our way or the highway. And both sides are guilty of it. I mean, the extreme right, I got problems with the extreme right, but I'm not too happy with the extreme left either because they want the same thing. It's our way or the highway. There's no middle ground. And those of us in the middle who see benefits on both sides are getting frustrated because we get blamed. If we say one thing, we're righty-tighty. If we say another thing, we're a leftist. So you can't seem to talk common sense anymore. I'm very disappointed with the American public. And it's going to come to a head. I don't know where we're going in this country. I really don't. We're tearing ourselves apart over things that really don't affect any of us. Very few people, if anything, is affected by what's going on here. You know, 80% of the people in this country could live with what we have right now. Maybe a few changes, get a few things straightened out. Well, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, which is what people like Northwest Liberty News want to do. They want to abolish CPS completely. Instead of reforming the system, saying, let's correct what's wrong and make it work right, and not say that every single solitary case of CPS coming in and intervening in the custody of a child is wrong. Let's first find out if CPS is justified in being there in the first place, and then make a decision that way. Don't go around saying that every single solitary CPS agency in the country is out to do this, that, and the other thing. Because then that's a fantasy. I've looked into, I had a woman that I've known for years. Met her in the Casey Anthony case. Made the same claim. That her children were taken away from her. And then I did some looking around. And it was almost parallel to the Absug woman. It turned out that there was some justification there for CPS in Florida to step in because of her conduct. And I backed away from it. I said, I'm not getting involved in this because it was clear that there was more going on here than the mother was saying. See, it's instinctive for some reason where people automatically believe the mother. She created the child. She nurtured it and had it in her stomach for 9 months, whatever. So it's understandable. But sometimes things go wrong. Not every mother's a responsible mother. And they just didn't create Munchausen's by proxy out of thin air. It's real. It happens. It happens more often than you realize. And this guy from Montana, who is not an expert in child psychology, he's not an expert in any of this, barges in without knowing all the facts. He's put himself right in the middle of this case with no facts. And there's a danger in doing that. Tim Holmsat did the same thing. He got involved in a case, took the core truth of the case, and then added his own nonsense to it, and got everything all screwed up. And now the people that are truly trying to do right by the case are trying to straighten out the mess he's made of it. And, there's too much of this going on where people just get in the middle of these cases that don't know what the hell's going on. They're not a party to it. This guy's not a relative of this woman. I doubt that this talk show host knew this woman before all this started. It just came on his radar. CPS wants to take this kid, took this kid. I'm going to get involved. And by getting involved, he's probably making matters worse for the woman. Because every word that this guy is saying on the air in these segments that he's doing are going to be looked at by the prosecution. I guarantee it. Because there's people right now notifying law enforcement, say, hey, you need to look at this stuff from this radio show, this internet radio show. Look at what this guy's saying that he did and she did. That's evidence, folks. That's evidence that can be used against the woman. Now, that guy could have been responsible and done that show in such a way where all this evidence wasn't put out there for the public to see. But he didn't do that. He needed the attention. He needed to have the scoop. And so he put this guy on the air with this 3-part series. This guy's going to make all kinds of statements and comments and confessions and everything. And in the end, he may wind up screwing this woman over big. Because he's already confessed to accompanying a woman that was fleeing an arrest warrant. That this woman knew she's going to get arrested. He even said it. Right there in the radio station. So we can't do this or the other thing or I'm going to get arrested. You got to stay undercover. And the people that helped him out, Field McConnell and all these other people, he's implicated them in this mess. Aiding and abetting a fugitive from justice. All this other stuff. Be curious to find out where that gun came from. I don't know if it came out in today's segment or it's going to come out later, but there was a gun involved. The daughter saw it, a revolver. Was it his gun? Probably. That's what he's going to say. He's going to be like, oh, that was my gun. Now, what's she going to the shooting range with it for? She going to protect herself against this neighbor who tried to break in the house? Is that what it is? Probably. But guess what, dude? You're going to have to get up in court, put your hand on the Bible, get that arm up in the air and say, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God, blah, blah, blah. Let it all hang out. That's where it's going to count. But if I were that radio commentator, if you want any credibility, sir, you better do your homework. You better find out exactly what it is that Field McConnell believes in. Find out about this Pentagon pedophile task force and the Children's Crusade and Timothy Charles Homseth and how he fits into all this before you start dismissing the statements about QAnon outright. Because it's the important distinction when it was made here, and it's in the police report, was that the woman believed that it was QAnon that was giving her all this information, that it was QAnon that told her about the satanic rituals. It was QAnon that told her about the baby selling, and it was QAnon that told her this, that, and the other thing. It's people like Field McConnell and Tim Homseth that told her this. That's what you didn't report so far. This woman got this information from somewhere. She didn't get it from 8 guys in a country club. Now, QAnon is a rather confusing thing. It's kind of like Anonymous. There's about 20 different stories and 20 different versions of QAnon. But the core here of what was said in the police report that is true was that this woman and her daughter believed they were affiliated with QAnon. That QAnon played into this little drama. Right or wrong. The woman was convinced it was QAnon. Report that, Mr. Host. That's where we're at here. Now, you may know something about QAnon. You may know more than I know. I don't know squat about your QAnon. What I know about are the actions of Timothy Holmseth and Field McConnell, because I've dealt with Timothy Holmseth for 10 years, and I've dealt with Field McConnell probably for about 6 or 7 months. Can't remember exactly when he came on my radar. But I can only go by what I've heard and what I read in the police report. I've got the actual police report. I didn't get it from a newspaper. I got it from the police department. And it's right there in PDF. The woman stated it to her daughter that it was QAnon that convinced her of this stuff. That's all she talked about was QAnon. She goes to QAnon meetings with an S, not meeting with a G. It means she went to more than one meeting. This guy talked about one meeting. What about the subsequent meetings? Find out. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, I guess. Give this guy clickbait. Sit there and listen to what he has to say, and we'll talk about it on Saturday. And I'm going to monitor as best I can the court case. I sure would love to get up to Colorado for this court case, because that's where we're going to find out what's going on. Not on some biased YouTube channel and social media radio show. We're going to find out in court. We're going to find out by watching these people testify in court, by reading all the discovery in court. That's where we'll find out. So, please like and share, subscribe, and if you would like to help in the mission to get me to these various court cases, we've got Field McConnell coming up. If we're able to do this in time, I'd be up in Colorado for the ABSUG trial and some of the other cases that are going to be hitting here pretty soon. If you want me to go there, help me out. Until then, this is William K. Murtaugh. Weren't win this one. Have a good one.